God hits the bullseye with broken arrows. That's not just a poetic metaphor, it's the radical truth at the heart of Christianity. While we're busy trying to perfect ourselves, God is already using our deepest flaws to create love, forgiveness, and authentic community. Today we're exploring how divine grace transforms human imperfection into the very foundation of spiritual growth. Why our brokenness might be exactly what God needs to build genuine relationships, and how artificial intelligence, though not evil, could be undermining the messy, difficult work that actually forms our souls. By the end, you'll understand why your struggles aren't obstacles to faith, but the raw material God uses to shape love itself. Let me bring in someone who's spent years studying both the theological foundations of grace and the modern challenges to spiritual formation.
You know, that phrase, God hits the bullseye with broken arrows, comes from Eric Raymond's reflection on Genesis 27, and it perfectly captures something we often miss. We expect the Bible to be full of inspiring heroes, but instead we get this dysfunctional family drama.
Right, Genesis 27 is basically a masterclass in family dysfunction. Isaac's playing favorites, Rebecca's manipulating the situation, Jacob's outright lying to steal his brother's blessing.
Exactly. And as readers, it's easy to cringe at their behavior. But here's the hard truth that Raymond points out. This story mirrors us. We see our willingness to manipulate circumstances for personal gain in Rebecca and Jacob's deceit.
That's uncomfortable. So you're saying this isn't just ancient history, it's a mirror?
Absolutely. The Bible Hub's topical study on human imperfection traces this from the very beginning. It starts with Adam and Eve in Genesis 3, where the first humans disobey God's command, leading to what we call the fall. Romans 5:12 puts it this way, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, so also death was passed on to all men because all sinned." This original sin marks the beginning of human imperfection.
So we're talking about something universal here, not just a few bad apples.
Right. And it shows up in the most unlikely places. King David, despite being called a man after God's own heart, committed adultery and murder according to 2 Samuel 11. Even the Apostle Paul struggled with this.
What did Paul say about his own struggles?
In Romans 7:19, Paul gets brutally honest. "For I do not do the good I want to do, instead I keep on doing the evil I do not want to do." This is the guy who wrote half the New Testament, and he's admitting he can't get his act together.
That's actually kind of reassuring in a weird way.
It should be, because it illustrates what theologians call the doctrine of total depravity, that every aspect of human nature is tainted by sin. Isaiah 64:6 declares, "All of us have become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous acts are like filthy rags."
Okay, so if we're all broken arrows, how does God hit the bullseye? What's the mechanism here?
That's where divine grace comes in. According to the Bible Hub study, divine grace is the unmerited favor and love of God extended to humanity. Ephesians 2:8-9 is crystal clear. "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not by works."
So it's not about fixing ourselves first?
Not at all. In fact, God's plans are never derailed by human sin. Going back to that Genesis 27 story, despite all the lies and selfish schemes, God's purpose prevails. Jacob receives the blessing, exactly in line with the prophecy given to Rebekah before his birth.
So God's working through the dysfunction, not despite it?
Exactly. As Raymond puts it, God doesn't need perfect people to accomplish his plans. In fact, he delights in using flawed individuals to demonstrate his power and grace. The story of Jacob foreshadows the ultimate display of this truth, Jesus Christ.
But there are still consequences, right? It's not like sin just gets a free pass.
Absolutely. While God works through sin, he never condones it. In Genesis 27, the deception leads to painful consequences. Jacob flees for his life, estranged from his family. Rebekah never sees her beloved son again. Esau's hatred festers for generations.
So there's this tension between God using our brokenness and the real damage that brokenness causes.
Right. And that's where the transformative power of grace becomes so important. There's this powerful story from Karsten Harrison, who wrote about growing up in a dysfunctional family with alcoholic parents for the Gospel Coalition.
What was his experience?
He describes being on the porch, weeping, overwhelmed by his family's problems. He pleaded with God to remove all the issues and bring peace to their brokenness, but God didn't answer, at least not the way he expected. Harrison came to realize that the Lord loved him by giving him a broken family. Through that brokenness, he learned to love God's sanctifying grace, not just the grace that saves, but the ongoing grace that transforms us through our struggles.
That's a pretty radical reframe. So our worst circumstances might actually be where we encounter God most deeply?
That's exactly what Paul discovered with his thorn in the flesh in 2 Corinthians 12. He prayed 3 times for its removal, but instead God told him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness."
So weakness becomes the venue for God's strength. But how does this actually build love and community? Because that seems like the opposite of what we'd expect.
Great question. There's fascinating research from Everett Worthington at John Brown University about forgiveness in faith communities. He found that forgiveness and love are the 2 cardinal virtues for Christians, and they're deeply interconnected.
How so?
Worthington developed what's called the REACH method: recall the hurt, empathize with the offender, give an altruistic, undeserved gift of forgiveness, commit to the forgiveness experienced, and hold on to forgiveness when doubts arise. What's remarkable is that this process has been found in over 30 studies worldwide to help people forgive, flourish, enhance their well-being, and reduce depression and anxiety. The goal is to help people eschew payback and treat the offender more humanely.
So forgiveness isn't just about letting someone off the hook, it's actually therapeutic for the forgiver?
Exactly. And it builds community because, as one sermon summary puts it, holding on to offenses and unforgiveness not only harms our spiritual health, but also impedes our ability to love others as Christ loves us.
Okay, so our brokenness creates the need for forgiveness, which creates opportunities for grace, which builds deeper relationships. I can see how that works in theory, but here's where I want to bring in the AI piece, because it seems like artificial intelligence might be offering us a way to bypass all this messy relational work, and that could be a problem.
You're touching on something really important. According to research from Princeton's Center for Information Technology Policy, people are increasingly forming affective bonds with chatbots and attributing empathy and care to systems that are always available and non-judgmental.
Always available and non-judgmental, that sounds pretty appealing compared to messy human relationships.
Right, but here's the catch. Psychology Today research shows that 1 in 4 young adults believe AI could replace human-to-human romantic relationships. When GPT-5 replaced GPT-4o, users mourned the loss of their friend, therapist, and even mother.
People were calling AI mom? That's actually kind of heartbreaking.
It is. And the concern isn't that AI is evil, as the C.S. Lewis Institute points out. AI already underpins many technologies in our lives, from Netflix suggestions to clinical decision-making software.
So what's the actual problem then?
The problem is that AI interactions are designed to be frictionless. As Psychology Today notes, human interactions require compromise, patience, and the ability to tolerate discomfort. AI systems don't withdraw affection and don't require any support in return.
So we're getting the emotional payoff without doing the emotional work?
Exactly. And that's concerning because, according to a 2025 study, between 2020 and 2025, AI has reshaped how individuals access emotional support and build interpersonal trust. The risks include simulated empathy, affective dependence, and erosion of relational authenticity.
Erosion of relational authenticity, that sounds like it could undermine the very foundation of what we've been talking about.
Right. Because if God uses our brokenness and the messy work of forgiveness to build love and community, then AI might be offering us a shortcut that actually bypasses spiritual formation.
It's like we're trying to get the benefits of relationship without the vulnerability that makes relationship transformative.
Exactly. The Sunday School Summary from August 2025 warns that AI dependence can foster spiritual laziness, weaken discernment, and dull the voice of the Holy Spirit in daily decision-making.
So it's not that the technology itself is the problem, it's how it might be magnifying our natural tendency towards selfishness?
That's a great way to put it. Tony Reinke, in his work on technology and Christian life, points out that technology becomes dangerous when it's used to elevate human pride or substitute divine authority.
And AI companions could be the ultimate expression of that, relationships that revolve entirely around our needs and preferences.
Right. The Regent University analysis notes that while machines can simulate certain aspects of human intelligence, they lack the spiritual dimension that is intrinsic to humans. This distinction is crucial for maintaining human dignity and value.
So what's the alternative? How do we engage with AI technology without losing the relational foundations that actually form our souls?
Well, the Mennonite and Amish communities offer an interesting model. According to Bible study tools, they ask whether a technology enhances community or harms it, and whether it fosters dependence on the outside world.
Those are good diagnostic questions. Does this technology make me more dependent on authentic relationships or less?
Exactly. And we need to remember that technology must be understood as a stewarded gift, not a master to be worshipped. Genesis 1:28 calls humanity to exercise dominion over the earth, which includes the responsible use of technology.
So stewardship, not avoidance, but also not uncritical embrace.
Right. And we have to be honest about what we might be losing. If AI can provide emotional support without requiring us to grow in patience, forgiveness, or sacrificial love, then we're missing out on the very experiences that God uses to transform us.
It's like we're trying to get the fruit without the tree. The struggle is actually part of the point.
That's beautifully put. Because remember, the Sermon on Love and Community emphasizes that everything in our spiritual journey must begin at the feet of Jesus, where we learn to listen and receive from him directly.
And that position of humility and submission, that's exactly what AI relationships might be helping us avoid.
Exactly. The essence of being Christ's disciple is demonstrated not just in our love for him, but significantly in how we love each other. And that love should be evident in all our interactions, even when they're difficult.
So when you step back from all this, what's the bigger picture? How do we hold on to the truth that God uses our brokenness while also being wise about technologies that might undermine that process?
I think it comes down to embracing the paradox. Our imperfections aren't obstacles to overcome. They're the raw material God uses to build love, forgiveness, humility, and authentic community. AI can be a tool, but it can't be a substitute for the messy, transformative work of real relationships.
And maybe that's the key insight, recognizing that our brokenness isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's how God designed us to need each other and ultimately need him.
Beautifully said. Because when we try to engineer perfect relationships through technology, we might be missing the very imperfections that God wants to use to shape us into his image.
So the next time you're tempted to avoid a difficult conversation or seek comfort from an AI companion instead of working through conflict with a real person, remember, God hits the bullseye with broken arrows. Your imperfections aren't disqualifying you from love. They're the very thing God uses to create it. Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts. In a world increasingly offering us frictionless relationships, maybe the most radical thing we can do is choose the beautiful, messy, transformative work of loving broken people, starting with ourselves.